So again, once again, thanks for inviting me to speak at this event. I've had a chance to, look at the golf course. It's an amazing facility, and have gotten a chance to learn about LSO, a great organization. So once again, thank you. So I'll start off by introducing a bit about myself. So I'm 18 years old from Ottawa, Ontario, and I've had the chance to get involved with life sciences at a fairly early age, and I think that's truly what's helped me develop both my ideas and has also helped me develop as an individual. So I'll start by talking a little bit about how I got involved with life sciences, my introduction to science fairs, my first medical innovation in the area of HIV immunology, followed by probably my more notable innovation in the field of viral oncolytics, so using viruses to treat cancer. I'll close off by talking a bit about my future directions, and if there are any questions, I guess I'll be open to answering them. So I'll start off with a quote by Albert Einstein, which is, I don't have any special talents, I'm only passionately curious. And I think it's that curiosity which first got me into sciences in the first place. When we're born, I believe we have an innate curiosity where we ask questions. Why should I clean my room? Why should I go to my room? And I mean, it's those questions which I believe drew me to science in the first place. I mean, as we grow up, we begin to accept things at their face value and begin to stop questioning stuff. Now, I was actually born with a certain heart condition, which doctors were able to fix quite perfectly. But because of that, I was always questioning, how does the heart work? And it was that supply and demand relationship, my constant demand for answers, and the seemingly endless supply that science had, that really what drove me towards science. So like many other kids, I tried to explore different avenues. I tried spelling bees, I tried math contests. I mean, I liked them, but they just weren't for me. But finally I got into arts, and the reason for that was it allowed me to be creative. I could think of something and actually make it work. Now with math contests, you can't really be creative. There's certain rules you need to abide by them. With spelling bees, I mean, you can think of a creative way to spell a word, but if you say it out loud, you're wrong. So, I mean, I liked arts just because it allowed me to be creative, but it just, again, wasn't for me. The perfect fit actually happened through these science fairs. Now, science fairs, I mean, I know everyone thinks that they're just paper volcanoes, but I think if you really want to see the future direction of science in the next 20 years, we don't need to go any further than look at the local science fair. I've had the chance to compete at quite a few science fairs, I guess, through my academic career so far, and seeing the caliber of the projects that my peers present, it truly astounds me. My involvement with science fairs actually happened by chance. It just so happened that the school that I went to in grade 9, it was part of the curriculum. I guess it was an easy way for teachers to get out of making a national assignment. We had to create a project. And so when I first thought about doing science fairs, I thought about the paper volcano, but I looked at the profiles of people who had successfully competed in these competitions. And again, I was taken aback. Young students were doing science beyond their age, pushing the limits of science. And I immediately saw that this was an area which I wanted to pursue. It allowed me to be curious as well as creative. So I did my research, and as soon as I had a slight semblance of an idea, I contacted around 20 professors. I was rejected by a lot of them, and I was actually invited to one lab. You can imagine how excited I was at the time. I was a high school student being invited to a pretty notable professor's lab, and in my mind, everything had already played out. I was going to be accepted into his lab, he would be very impressed by me, and I would live happily ever after. As soon as I got to the lab, it wasn't the case. The first thing he told me was that I was way too young to be pursuing science, and I should probably wait until my undergraduate degree. But he wanted to ask me a couple of questions just to see how much I knew. First question was, how many amino acids are there in the body? The way I responded to that question was I said there are a lot. And that gives an appreciation for just how much I knew at the time. I realized it was a block path, but I took that as guidance and realized that there was still a lot that I needed to learn. So I decided to, again, do a lot of reading, and I realized that there was one area in science that really fascinated me the most, which was viruses. At that point, particularly with the HIV virus. So the one dynamic with the HIV virus that I had was looking at the mechanisms behind HIV particles in the bloodstream and a population of cells called CD8 cells. CD8 cells are cells that are responsible for, I guess, looking at foreign pathogens, anything that might cause disease, and then curing them, killing the harmful parts of the body. So you can see in this diagram here, initially when a body is infected with HIV, there's an increase in the amount of HIV virus. As a result of that, CD8s, the destructive cells, they rise as well, which suppresses the load of the virus. But for some reason, the CD8 population goes down, which allows the viruses to go back up. And this didn't make very much sense to me. So I began to research ideas and look into this different areas. But before I completely gave up on this project, I decided to give it one more chance, email a couple professors. This time, instead of emailing 20 professors, I emailed 400. Anyone who had even the slightest connection to viruses, immunology whatsoever. And because of that, I was actually accepted into one lab at the age of 16, into Dr. Angela Crowley's lab. And so getting involved in that lab, it allowed me to, again, do a bit more research. So CD8 cells, as I mentioned, are the cells responsible for killing harmful pathogens. But the way that they're actually activated is through a protein called IL-7. So IL-7 is essentially a good key. When the body is infected with something bad, these keys are released. And when the CD8 cells kind of have a lock on their surface. So when these keys interact with the lock, the cells are activated and you get proper destruction of the virus. But what happens in HIV is you have a whole bunch of these keys which are floating around the bloodstream. It essentially knocks off the locks, and as a result you get these cells which are unresponsive to the floating keys. So doing various chemical analysis, I realized that there was another protein. I screened through a whole bunch of molecules, and I realized that there was another protein that might have a similar effect, but wouldn't knock off these receptors. And one of my most promising results was actually the fact that I had CD8 cells treated with IL-7 as well as this new molecule called TSLP. And as you can see, the receptor in my treatment was actually increasing, whereas when treated with conventional IL-7 therapy, the receptor went down. So it was more positive than what's currently on the market. And at the same time, it had all the same benefits. So that research, it was good, and actually got me the Manning Innovation Award. And that was a great validation of my initial research. And it truly wanted me to pursue that idea. For some reason, according to rules, they don't really allow 16-year-olds to actually manipulate the HIV virus, I guess for health reasons. So I was actually left in a situation where I wanted to pursue another project, but I didn't know what. So then at my school, we actually had an event by Relay for Life. Are you familiar with this event? So Relay for Life is an event where people, again, try to advocate for cancer research. So essentially there's a small relay where you take laps around your school, and as a result you advocate for science, for cancer research. So when this event happened at my school, I heard kids talk about their experiences, my own classmates, their experiences that they had with cancer. And that really moved me. I mean, I guess you can't really say that a year is any experience, but for me, being 16 at the time, 1 year was 1/16 of my life. So I had some experience working in a lab, and I had a certain motivation to help out my classmates. And so I wanted to do something to combine those two areas together. So I had an idea, which is what if I could create a virus which could be used to treat cancer? So that's an area called oncolytic virology, and it was one that I became very passionately interested in. I really like viruses. I mean, they're very specific at targeting specific cells, so I wanted to see if I could use that experience and apply that to a completely different domain. So what came of that was my project for which I won the Sanofi BioGenius Challenge. And I had incredible help along the way. I've reached out to many different labs for help, many different companies which were able to sponsor me for this project. And so I guess I'll just give a brief overview of what exactly I did in that project. Cancer, as we know, is a horrible disease, and the way that we currently treat it is using chemotherapy, radiation, which for the most part is effective to some degree, but not extremely so. So my idea was using a virus which would only target cancer cells. I designed a certain gene which I theorized would only be able to kill cancer cells and wouldn't harm healthy cells, and as well as I had a diagnostic element as well. I won't bother you with all the details of exactly how it worked, but I'll just go over some of the results. If you can look at the rightmost diagram here, the HeLa cells and the A549s, those are cancer cells. And the ones on the complete right, GM38s, those are actually normal cells. So when I got these cells to express the gene that I designed, you can see that my gene was killing cancer cells, but was not killing the normal cells, which was a really good result. So once I had the gene, I started creating viruses, amplifying certain genes. It was like cutting and pasting different genes. It was really a really cool process. Then the next part was to see if it would target cancer cells. In this diagram, you can see the red. So the red represents if the virus is working or not. You can see that in the cancer cells, the virus is working to a very large degree, whereas in the normal cells, it's not really working at all, which was an incredible positive sign. So So the moment of truth, so to speak, was to see how effective was my virus. So when I added it to cancer cells and normal cells, you can see that I got almost a 98% reduction in cell viability, which means that it was able to kill around 98% of cancer cells without significantly harming healthy cells, which was, again, a really positive result and a great validation of all the research which had been done to that point. So I promise this isn't just gibberish. Could you please play the video, please? So this is a small video just explaining exactly how it works. So essentially, I had DNA, genetically modified that, so that I had the different components which I wanted. So I created an adenovirus. This one was the one that they allowed me to play with. So with that, it enters cancer cells, and it selectively kills cancer cells. So when it enters a cancer cell versus a normal cell, it only delivers the genes which I designed in the cancer cells and does not deliver them in the normal cells, which selectively kills the cancer cells. So we'll wind up a little bit. So now this is just talking just a bit about the exact mechanisms. We can just skip this part. So again, the fact that I was able to compete in this competition and pursue research at a young age is largely due to competitions like Sanofi Biogenius. I know that they have a silent auction here today, and it's because of these events that individuals like myself have been supported enough to reach this area. I've worked with viruses for a large part of my academic career, and I think that inspiration kind of works like viruses in some respects. You start off with 1, and if given the right conditions, it becomes 10. If given the right conditions, it becomes 100. So the same way that viruses replicate, inspiration replicates the same way. I was lucky enough when I first started out that I was able to look at inspiration and take inspiration from them and pursue my own research. And I hope that, again, through competitions like Sanofi Biogenius and the publicity that it gets, I'm able to inspire more people to pursue science and take up the arms against diseases like cancer, against HIV, the same way that I was able to. So this is me posing with my Sanofi Biogenius award. And this is, again, just me posing in an article by the Auto Citizen. So in conclusion, a lot of work still needs to be done in research, and the way more work will be done is by getting more ideas. And the way we get more ideas is, again, by supporting grassroots organizations, like, for example, Sanofi, where we're finding talent at an early age and developing that forward. There was recently a conference which I attended for the Top 20 Under 20 Award, in which I came up with a really nice quote, in which I came across a really nice quote, which is, tomorrow's leaders don't need to wait until tomorrow to make a difference today. And I think that quote really resonated with me today. So as far as my future directions are concerned, right now I'm working with other viruses. I'm playing with a couple of immunological, treatments, specifically a couple of molecules that are really cool, called checkpoint inhibitors. But as of right now, I'm really excited to say that because of my research, I'm kind of focusing on the trifecta of my 3 love interests in science: viruses, cancer, and immunotherapy. And hopefully in the near future, I'll be launching my own company, because I think I've come up with an idea which I believe would significantly help cancer therapy in the near future. So with that, again, thank you for having me today to talk about my research. I have my contact information up there, and if you have any questions, I'd love to take them. Thank you.
Well, if that isn't inspirational, I took a look at his LinkedIn page, and it's 3 times longer than mine. And I think the reason why the contact information there is any potential investors out there, you know where to send your money.